This week I want to talk about the parami or perfection of determination. But let's start with a Jataka tale first. The Jataka tales are the stories of the Buddha in his previous lives before he became the Buddha. So let's start with a Jataka tale about determination. And it's called The Strong-Minded Snake. And in it, the yet-to-be Buddha takes the form of a doctor who is skilled at treating people with snake bites. But before I start, I want to just mention that the Buddha is often called the great physician. So it's not unusual to see him portrayed as a physician, as he is in this Jataka tale. And indeed, the Four Noble Truths, the first of the Buddha's teachings, is completely consistent with the classical medical model of diagnosis, treatment, and cure. Because this is the formulation of the Four Noble Truths, of course. The first Noble Truth is the diagnosis that there is suffering. The second one, that it is caused by clinging. That's the second Noble Truth. The third one is how to stop the clinging, how to prevent it, which is equivalent to the treatment. And then the cure, of course, is the Noble Eightfold Path, the way that we cure ourselves. So that's a little background on the Buddha as the great physician. And with that in mind, in this story, the Buddha is reborn as a physician who is expert at healing people from snake bites. So once upon a time, there was a doctor who was very skilled at treating snake bites. And one day he was called for by the relatives of a man who had been bitten by a deadly snake. And the doctor told the relatives, well, we can go about this one of two ways of treating this snake bite. One is by giving medicine to the man who's been bitten, and the other is by capturing the snake who bit the man and get the snake to suck the poison out of the wound. And the relatives decided that on the latter, that they wanted to find the snake who'd bitten the man and get the snake to suck the poison out. So they went and looked for the snake, and sure enough, they found it. And the snake was caught and taken to the doctor, and the doctor said to the snake, "Did you bite this man?" And the snake said, "Yes, I did." "Well then," said the doctor, "you must suck out your own poison out of this wound." But the strong-willed snake refused to, and said, "Take back my own poison. Never have I done such a thing, and I never will." Then the doctor started a wood fire and said to the snake, "If you don't suck the poison out, I'll throw you on this fire and burn you up." But the snake had made up its mind that it wasn't going to suck out the poison from the man. And so the snake once again refused to take its poison out from the man and began slithering towards the fire, expecting the doctor to throw it into the flames. But in all his years, the snake bite doctor had never seen anything like this. He'd never seen a snake who was so determined not to remove his own poison. And so he didn't throw the snake into the flames. Instead, the doctor decided to use his medicines and spells to remove the poison from the suffering man. And of course, the man got better. The doctor came to really respect and admire the snake for his single-minded determination. And he knew that if the snake used this same determination in a beneficial way, it would make progress on the spiritual path. So the doctor taught the snake how to avoid unwholesome actions and how to do beneficial actions. And then he let it go free and said to the snake, "Go in peace and harm no one." So the moral of this story is that determination can be used both for good and for ill. And in Pali, the word for determination is adhitthana, and it is the 8th of the 10 perfections or paramis in Buddhism. And this word adhitthana can also be translated as resolve or tenacity. It's a little bit different from viria or energy that I talked about a few weeks ago, because adhitthana or determination is really about clarifying what is necessary for making progress on the spiritual path and focusing on that and getting rid of obstacles in its way. So it's about a resolve to continue on the path no matter what challenges present themselves. In contrast, viria or energy is more about the level of effort that we put in. So there's a bit of a distinction between them. And determination can be seen as a foundation for all of the other paramis or perfections, because it takes time to discern what things are worth applying determination to and what are not. You can think of someone who is determined to get ahead or to be rich or famous or powerful, and he or she might have a lot of determination, but this doesn't necessarily make for a wholesome determination or a beneficial determination in terms of our spiritual growth. What makes determination a spiritual quality is when it's applied to things that will help us advance on the spiritual journey, things that will contribute to our long-term happiness and awakening, whether it's our own personal awakening and happiness or whether it's that of other people. So that's really what determination is about. And fortunately, the Buddha offered a very clear and detailed teaching on the different types of adhitthana, the different types of determination that help us to make progress on the spiritual path. And this is what he said. He said, "A person has 4 determinations, thus it was said." In reference to what it said, these are the 4 determinations. The determination for discernment, the determination for truth, the determination for relinquishment, and the determination for calm. A person has these 4 determinations. So first, we should be determined to cultivate discernment or wisdom. Discernment is essential because determination without at least a little discernment is incomplete. We have to discern whether the object of our determination is beneficial or wholesome, or whether it's not beneficial and unwholesome. As I just mentioned, does it help us on the spiritual journey or does it hinder us on the spiritual journey? So that's the first thing that we need to cultivate determination for discernment or wisdom, to know what is wholesome and what is not. The The second determination that the Buddha mentioned is that of truthfulness. And I explored this last time in the previous video. And truthfulness in this sense isn't just about not lying. It's really about knowing the truth about ourselves. We can be determined to be honest with ourselves and with others about when the hindrances are present in our experience, when we are clinging, when we are experiencing aversion or ill will, when we're restless, when we're lazy, or when we're doubtful. So truthfulness, cultivating truthfulness about our own experience is the second determination, and it arises quite naturally out of the first one of discernment or wisdom. Then after we've cultivated the determination to be truthful with ourselves and honest about ourselves, we can develop the determination to renounce or relinquish whatever is harmful, whatever we're doing that is harming us or harming other people. So cultivating determination to renounce or relinquish what holds us back from making progress on the spiritual path is the third type of determination that the Buddha advises that we practice. And lastly, after we have developed determination to renounce what is harmful, we can cultivate the determination to experience calmness and tranquility of mind. And this is the fourth and final determination that the Buddha says we can practice. So to put this teaching in a nutshell, when we're deciding what to be determined about, we can simply ask ourselves, will this help us to be more discerning, to be wiser? Will it help us to be more truthful about our own experience? Whether it will help us to give up negative states of mind or the hindrances. And lastly, will it move us towards greater peace and tranquility? This seems relatively simple, but I'm surprised by just how many of my impulses and cravings will override this simple form of inquiry. It only takes a few mindful moments to ask these questions, and I think the rewards are well worth it in terms of cultivating our determination. But even after we've clarified what is beneficial to our awakening, what advances us on the spiritual path, simply saying, we'll just do it, let's do it, that Nike commercial, just do it, isn't sufficient for most people, for most of us. So after my first meditation retreat, I decided that I wanted to meditate every day. And I kept up the practice for a few weeks, and then it faded and I stopped meditating. And then I went on another retreat and practiced on my own for a while, and then once again the practice faded. So we all fall short of our intentions at times, and it was only after many years that I was able to establish a daily meditation practice. While I often felt like a failure in those early years, the fact that I kept on trying was a form of determination. And cultivating the determination to keep on going and to start over again is the foundation of all forms of determination. We can always begin again, and just remembering that is so helpful and so important. And this is what we do in sitting meditation, of course. Every time we return our awareness to the sensations of breathing or another primary meditation object, we're cultivating our determination to stay present and to be mindful. So doing the sitting practice is just a wonderful way for strengthening determination. But there are some other ways too, and I'd like to mention one of them. And it's this other way that we can cultivate determination is consistently doing our best to practice the 5 precepts of Buddhism. And I've talked about the 5 precepts before. Today I just want to focus on the first one. And the first precept, of course, is not to kill or do harm to any living being. And here's a bit of a personal story about that. So I've been vegetarian for most of my adult life, and it's always been a pretty easy choice for me. I didn't have to struggle or fight with myself to not eat meat, because I had discerned that it was the wise thing for me. I knew I couldn't kill an animal to eat it, so I couldn't really eat animals that other people had killed for me to eat. So this was a very gentle form of determination. I wasn't struggling with myself. I wasn't fighting with myself. It's just a gentle, soft determination, because I had discerned that that was the wise thing for me to do. And in any event, if our determination is a fighting or a struggling with ourselves, it's rarely helpful, and we seldom succeed at anything if we are struggling or fighting to have determination. And more importantly than that, struggling or fighting to have determination is actually a form of violence towards ourselves. And being violent towards ourselves just ends up breeding more resistance, more anger, more ill will, more aversion. So really struggling to have determination is rarely helpful. It's much better to cultivate a gentle, easeful form of determination, because it's much more likely to be successful. In addition, the ability to practice determination is heavily influenced by our surroundings. For example, I can enjoy eating a healthy and relatively simple diet when I'm far away from an ice cream shop. But when I'm close to an ice cream shop, then it's a lot harder to maintain my resolve to eat healthily. So if you're having trouble maintaining your resolve, I suggest that you look at what aspects of your environment are affecting you, and which aspects of your environment are strengthening your determination and which ones are weakening your determination. This isn't a sign of weakness in itself at all. Quite the opposite. Discerning whether our circumstances are helpful or not helpful, and if necessary, taking steps to find a more helpful setting, a more helpful environment, can be a very skillful action. And when we're with people who share our resolve, our determination, we're much more likely to be able to maintain it than if we're with those who don't. I think in our culture there is a myth that real determination is all about our individual effort. But this is rarely true because we are so interdependent on others. Sometimes telling people about your resolve, about your determination can be helpful, because then we can feel more motivated to stick to it. On the other hand, sometimes people like to keep quiet about what their determination is all about. And sometimes it can be good to just inquire into what works best for you, to share your motivation, your determination, or with others, or not to. That said, believing that we have sufficient determination on our own and don't need the support of others, don't need the support of our friends and our communities to make progress on the spiritual path is just unrealistic and rather arrogant, quite frankly. Looking for sources of support for ourselves, support for our determination on the spiritual journey is a sign of strength, not weakness. That's why the Buddha said that being part of a sangha or a community is essential on the spiritual path. I want to round out this talk by discussing one potential pitfall with the parami of determination. And it's about when we combine determination with perfectionism. Being determined to be perfect is often unhelpful. Whether we're striving to be the perfect person, the perfect friend, or the perfect meditator, trying too hard, being too determined, and not being gentle with ourselves is a recipe for self-judgment, criticism, and blame. And in addition, striving to be perfect can lead to cycles of burnout and depression. Just like intense or rigid dieting can often be followed by periods of binge eating, it's just not sustainable. The determination to be perfect and then not meeting one's ideas about perfection can lead to a sense of failure and guilt and shame. And those in turn can weaken the capacity for our determination. So if you have a tendency towards perfectionism and over-striving, it may be wise to not focus too much on determination as something to cultivate, unless you are specifically cultivating spiritual qualities like the other paramis. On the other hand, if you think you lack determination, then it might be just the parami for you to cultivate. What's important here is to discern how much determination to apply. Sometimes it may be just a little, and sometimes it may be a bit more. Sometimes we really need to cultivate our determination, and other times we need to relax and take it easy. And just discerning what is appropriate in any particular moment and in any particular circumstance. And when we're not sure about the level of determination we should put in, whether it's skillful or not, we can always come back to those 4 determinations that the Buddha talked about. Being determined to cultivate discerning wisdom, being determined to be truthful about our own inner experience, being determined to relinquish what is harmful, and lastly, having a tranquil and calm mind. And above all, being determined to be compassionate towards ourselves and others. Aditana, this parami of determination, is really about embracing the whole of our flawed and wondrous humanity. Thank you so much.